It's the Bradfield Weather Podcast, underwritten by McAllen Construction. McAllen Construction, from the first dig to the last nail, and by Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury, a family-run business there for you. I am Dan Lavallo. He is meteorologist Bradfield. We are putting this podcast together on March the 5th, a Thursday. And Brad, it seems hard to believe, but meteorological winter, at least on the calendar, is over.
Yeah, meteorological winter is over, Dan, but somebody better tell winter that it's that meteorologically it's over because it just keeps coming at us. I'll tell you what, just kind of give you an overview. You've probably been hearing a lot about it's going to get warm next week, and I think that's true. I think there'll be at least a day or two where the temperature is going to be up near 60, maybe even over 60, going to wipe out the snow cover. We'll talk about that. That's an interesting stat. But the really long range, Dan, once we get out to what's today, the 5th, once we get out to a week from today, the 12th, and then especially that weekend coming up, Friday the 13th, Saturday the 14th, Sunday the 15th, we are going to transition right back into winter again. And some of the long range forecasters that I like to look at are predicting another outbreak of the polar vortex. So, it's going to be mild for a few days next week. Enjoy it because we're fighting the steepening solar angle now, and winter's only got so much left. But I do think that the last couple of weeks of March are hardly going to be anything to get excited about.
Wow, that is really something. I know right now, of an immediate nature, we have a winter weather advisory in place, don't we?
Yeah, I think it's primarily for tonight, Dan. It's, whatever your activities are during the day today, Thursday, March 5th, just periods of rain out there. We're recording this at 8:30 in the morning, and you told me that at your home it's already 36 in Torrington. So I am not concerned that the roads are going to be an issue today or anything like that. But tonight, once we get past dark, the winter weather advisory is technically up for the 4 northern counties of Connecticut. So that would be Litchfield, Hartford, Tolland, and Windham County. I'm really honing in myself on the Western Hills and the Northeast Hills and the Connecticut River Valley north of Hartford up to Springfield. It is going to be close, because I'm looking at a moderate to heavy rainfall overnight tonight. Now, what do I mean by that? About a half an inch to about an inch of rainfall. But if the low temperature tonight in those western hills, in the northeast hills, is 30, we have huge problems. If the low temperature is 32, where I think it'll be in the Connecticut River Valley from about Hartford up to Springfield, it's not going to be bad. There might be a couple of slick spots around that are untreated. If the low temperature tonight is 34, and I see that occurring at the shoreline cities, Bridgeport, New Haven, New London, and Groton, no problem at all. So within our little state, it is all about the temperature. And Dan, 1 degree can make all the difference overnight tonight. Because if it's 30, just say it's 30, and you get a 1/4 of an inch of ice accruing on the tree limbs, on the power lines, that is the criterion that the National Weather Service uses to issue an ice storm warning. Now, an ice storm warning is a lot worse than a winter weather advisory, which is currently in effect. The ice storm warning means that, you could see that 1/4 of an inch or more of ice accruing on tree limbs and power lines. You could obviously look for branches to break. That would cause power outages. And again, I don't want somebody in Cromwell to say, "Oh, you said," blah. No, I'm specifically talking about the Western Hills, places like Watertown, working your way up Route 8, Terryville, up toward Torrington and Litchfield, then on up toward Colebrook and Norfolk. There, over into extreme western Hartford County, West Granby, North Granby, Heartland, for example, Barkhamsted, New Hartford. That area could have a problem tonight. Then working our way out to the eastern part of the state, we go up into Tolland, we get up into the hilly terrain. Then we go up into Ashford and Willington and all the way up to Union. That area could have problems tonight. So those are the specific areas I'm most concerned about overnight tonight, Dan.
Well, what can you tell us as we swing to our On the Weather Map segment about the storm track? Where is it developing? From where is it coming? Give us an overview.
Well, because the snow is so persistent and so deep, the snow reflects the sunlight during the daytimes of days past. But my whole point is we've got a deep snowpack and we've got strong high pressure located up in northern New England and Quebec province. So we've got a cold air source. The storm right now is on the Illinois-Indiana border, and it's moving to the east. By tonight, I think that the low pressure area will be north of Pittsburgh. And then by, say, the middle of the night, let's say 1 a.m. Friday morning, Friday, March 6th, it should be off New Jersey and south of Montauk Point. So you put a low pressure area in that location and you look at the wind flow around it, it's counterclockwise. At that point, when it's off New Jersey and south of Montauk Point, our winds will come around to the north. And remember how I told you it's colder up there in Vermont and Quebec province, and that colder air will be filtering down so that right around daybreak tomorrow, on Friday, March 6th, we're going to be at our coldest temperature. I think you in Torrington will be about 30 or 31. I think in, say, at Bradley, it'll be about 32. Springfield might be 31. Hartford might be 33. And it's all about that temperature. If I'm off by 1 degree, Dan, 1 degree, you can't change the laws of physics. The raindrop that comes down is going to freeze if it's 30. If the raindrop comes down and it's 33, it's just going to stay liquid. So, that's what we're up against tonight. So I'd rather put out the warning that there could be a big ice problem in the morning on roadways in the hills, western hills, northeastern hills, and there could also be these power issues. Now, by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, that low pressure area is south of Nantucket. Surface winds are north. It's cold. Precipitation coming to an end, though, between 7 and 9. So I'm looking for roadways to rapidly improve tomorrow after the morning commute. But here again, the superintendents have to make their decisions at 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning even, on whether or not there's going to be school. And I think at that point, the roads are going to be icy in the hills and the western hills and the northeastern hills. So there's the problem. By Friday evening, Dan, the storm is long gone, but it's cloudy, it's chilly, it's raw during Friday. Temperatures between 36 and 42. On Saturday, we're looking at another storm system in the Great Lakes, cold front all the way down to Texas, but a warm front approaching us from western New York and western Pennsylvania. Now, we will be ahead of the warm front, so it's not going to be that warm, but it's going to be milder than it's been. I'm thinking 46 to 52 for the high temperature readings on Saturday. Sunday, we get a cold front comes through right around daybreak here, and it's briefly cooler on Sunday, probably only in the 40s. But then, as that high moves offshore, we get into a southerly and southwesterly airflow, Dan, and a Bermuda high, quote unquote, type situation for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week, where we could see away from the Connecticut shoreline, away from Long Island Sound, because the temperatures are so cold in Long Island Sound right now. They're between 32 and 34 degrees, so it is cold. So places, the wind's coming off the water in Old Saybrook and in Mystic. It is going to be chilly there. But you go inland 5, 10, 15 miles and more, the temperature is going to warm rapidly in the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe of next week.
Well, that's good news, but this is really fascinating, the winter that we've experienced. Now, as you mentioned, our meteorological winter has come to an end. Meteorological spring began on March the 1st. Again, we're putting this together on March the 5th, and I know you've come up with some winter numbers. What can you tell us?
Well, one thing I'll tell you, Dan, is we had the January thaw. Remember the thaw? Well, right after the thaw, we had some snow, and then we had the big blizzard in late January. Since that time at Bradley, every single day, so the last 15 days of January, all 28 days of February, and the first 5 days of March, we have seen perpetual snow cover. And tomorrow morning, when you wake up, there'll still be snow on the ground for sure. Will be 7 straight weeks of snow cover. So that made me think that seems unusual to me. And it is. I look back at some of the stats on the meteorological winter. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about December, we're talking about January and February, just those 3 months. Obviously, it can snow in November. Obviously, it can snow in March. It does snow in April. It has snowed in October. So you may say when Brad says, oh, the average snowfall for meteorological winter is 39.1 inches. Yeah, that's what it is for December, January, and February. But we do get some in November, usually. We do get some in March, almost all the time. We do get some in April, usually. So that number is higher. But for meteorological winter, it's 39.1. So keep this all in mind. I looked back at the average temperature, and again, we're taking Windsor locks for December, January, and February. It was 25.6, which is 4.1 degrees below normal of 29.7. And you might say, well, 4 degrees. Well, just think of it this way, Dan, how this works. Let's just pull a random day out of a hat. Let's take Christmas Day. Let's say the normal temperature on Christmas Day is 25, meaning, say, a low of 15 and a high of 35. It averages out to 25. Well, if we're taking the 4.1 below that average every day, Christmas would not be 25, it would be 21. But that was how it averaged out for every single day this winter. So it was a cold winter for sure. And now you look at snowfall in the 3 months, December, January, February. At Bradley, we had 52.3 inches, which is 13.2 above the normal of 39.1. But remember, Dan, in the Hartford area, we've had record keeping since 1905. Now the records are at Bradley. So through 2025, that's 120 full years of weather records. That 52.3 inches ranks 14th out of 120. So it was pretty snowy. Now, days of snow on the ground, that's recorded as 1 inch or more of snow on the ground, 74 days during the month of December, January, and February. That ranks 10th out of 120. So we are in the top 8 percentile of perpetual snow cover. We usually have 25 such days. We've tripled that. We've had 74 days. So it ranks number 10 there. So I think some pretty impressive numbers for this winter.
No question about it. Now, I know you've already looked into your crystal ball. We're going to get a springtime tease next week, but that's all it's going to be is a tease. What can you tell us?
Well, we have another one of these sudden stratospheric warmings going on up at the North Pole, and we always say X yields Y. Well, a lot of times a piece of the cold air is pushed to the south when that happens, and i.e. the polar vortex, and all of the long range forecasters that I know personally and I trust for making these monthly predictions. I like to fancy myself as more of a short to medium range forecaster, for the next few days to the next week, maybe. But these guys look at the climatological patterns, and they look how like El Nino and La Nina and the Greenland block factor in, and the sudden stratospheric warmings factor in, and they've got all these global things that they look at. And they are talking about a stretching of the polar vortex again coming down. So it could turn unusually cold for the time of year. Now, remember what I'm saying here. Let's think that maybe by, let's say, St. Patrick's Day, the normal high temperatures may be about 42. If the temperature that day is 32, Dan Lavallo is not going to say, "Oh, this is terrible. I'm so cold," and because you've been used to the winter. But for the time of year, it's very cold. So that's what I'm asking you to think of here with respect to what it should be at the time of year, not the fact that it's not going to be like 0 and it's not going to be like 15 for the high temperature during the day, but it's going to be way colder than it should be. And if that's happening, if the average temperature for the day is not 40, if the average temperature for the day is 30, guess what? Storms that come at us could very well be snow instead of being a cold rain, as they typically are in late March and April. So if you pinned me right now and said, even though Brad sees Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday being near 60, the snow melting and going down the drain and all that stuff, I do think we will have more snow. So I was, as we get toward, putting the, as you like to say, a ribbon on it and coming up with the forecast, I would normally in early to mid-March say, well, we may or may not be on again with another podcast. I have a feeling we'll be back. There's more winter to come.
Well, there you go. Right there. You've answered my question, because I was going to ask you, if I had to put you on the spot, do you see us getting another big snowstorm or two?
I see us getting more. Yes, I see us getting more snow that's going to be impactful. I won't use the word big, but nothing like the blizzard we had in January, or like the blizzard that the Providence and Fall River and New Bedford area had a few weeks ago. But I am thinking that we will have more impactful weather. Yes, that's the answer to that. Yes.
Okay. Well, on that note, and again, we are putting this together on Thursday, March the 5th. What does our immediate forecast look like?
Oh, it's just one of those raw days, Dan. I'm looking out the window and it's just cloudy and gloomy, and the snow is on the ground, but it just looks like it's going to rain, and it is going to rain. Periods of rain today. Temperature 36 to 42. Now tonight, the winter weather advisory is in effect for Litchfield, Hartford, Tolland, and Windham County. Again, I am highlighting you in the Western Hills, Dan, the northeastern hills of Connecticut, and somewhat of a problem from Hartford north through the valley, places like Enfield, and then on up into Longmeadow and Springfield, for example. It is going to be close. If it's 30, big problems. I'm predicting for lows tonight, 30 to 36. So you're probably 30 or 31, Dan. Um, Somebody down in Old Saybrook is probably 34 or 35. So you could have big problems. Old Saybrook will have no problems. But overnight tonight, rain. The rain could be heavy at times. The rain could change to freezing rain in the hills and right along the Massachusetts border. Freezing rain and those ice pellets. If it's ice pellets, that would be good, because that would mean that it's not accruing on the power lines or whatever. So if it's ice pellets, it's good. If you hear the pinging on the windows, it's good. If there is sleet and ice pellets, that could accumulate to about an inch. So the plows might have to come out if that happens. And if it's freezing rain, there could be areas of power loss tonight. So I put up the red flag for that. Friday, rain or an icy mix ending during the morning. Another tough call for the superintendents. If I were pinned down right now, I'd say delay and see if the roads can improve by 8 or 9 o'clock. I think they can. Cloudy and raw tomorrow, 36 to 42. And Saturday, mainly cloudy with a scattered shower and temperature 46 to 52. And I throw out that candle of hope for early next week and nice warm temperatures away from Long Island Sound.
All right, my friend. Well, this should be an interesting stretch for sure. And to you and Sandy and our audience, be safe, because obviously travel is going to be an issue over the next 24 hours or so.
You and Susan too, Dan, have a wonderful weekend, and I hope that folks like you up in the hills do not lose power.
Thanks, Brad. The Bradfield Weather Podcast has been underwritten by Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury, a family-run business there for you, and by McAllen Construction. McAllen Construction, from the first dig to the last nail.